Hello and welcome to another tutorial from Cami Page Boutique. I'm Brooke and today we're going to be going through a reverse peekaboo tumbler tutorial. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm so excited to share this design concept with you guys and see how you can use this technique to bring your own designs to life. So without any further ado, let's go. I started with my different spray paint colors to lay the groundwork for how our glitters will go onto the cup. Our base of this cup is just everything purple. Anything purple I had, well, not anything, but the colors of spray paint I had and the glitters I chose really were to build a deep purple color that would make the yellow of our sunflowers really pop. So I started with a purple spray paint from Rust-Oleum 2Times. It was just the grape color. And then I came in with this kind of reddish Krylon color. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I will definitely list it below so that you guys could pick it up if you're interested. And finally, I came in with this light, almost, I think it's lilac color that I thought really played well with the other two purples, but was also different enough to stand alone. So just lightly coming in with just little spritzes, laying the colors up against each other, and also creating a bit of dimension for our purple colors to come to life. As always, I am using a little extra ink epoxy. I love this stuff. I will never use anything else. And in this picture, you'll see me mixing up 30 mLs. We are going to be applying the glitter to the cup using the epoxy method. We will not need nearly this much epoxy. Actually, I think you're going to need about 1.5 to 2 milliliters, but I had some other projects I was working on at the same time. So I made sure to warm my cup up before I put epoxy on, not just to let the paint dry, but I found that this extra step really helps the epoxy to go on smoother and create almost a even coat around the whole cup for the glitter to adhere to. Since I am using so many chunky glitters, I am adding a little bit extra epoxy that I don't typically use if I were just using fine cuts, to really make sure that there was a lot for the glitter to grip onto, and also to where you don't have those sharp pieces sticking up. So here I started with the redder of the purples. This is actually a glitter called Mermaid Kisses from Starcraft Glitters. I just really liked the opal color to pull in the purple underneath. And you'll see with the finer glitter I come in with on top of it, it just completely transforms the color. So I just really like the reflectiveness, and there was a purple hue to it that I thought was really spectacular. Then on the darkest color, which was that purple grape spray paint, I came in with Emmeline from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I hope I'm saying that right. But I liked this purple because it had also a teal fleck to it, I guess you could call it, that I just really thought added to the overall purple color and some great dimension to the cup that when I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's absolutely perfect. When I'm applying the glitter, I always want to make sure that I'm getting good coverage. So for this cup, I like to use the medicine cups. And finally, right here, what I'm doing is I'm actually adding Everest from Peachy Olive Glitters into the lightest color spray paint because I thought it really played well on there. And then I forgot to add glitter to the bottom of my cup, like I always do. And I came back in and added some more Emmeline and Everest to make sure I got that great cover. So this is the part I really wanted you to see. So you know how I added that opal, just Mermaid Kisses glitter? Well, I came over it with 308 from Peachy Olive Glitters. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but it completely transformed the color of that swirl on the cup. That's exactly what I was hoping for. It just came out 100 times better than to be expected, and it really gave it some depth to that opal and that reddish purple that we had started with the spray paint. Then I came in over the Emmeline again, and I went in with Barney from Peachy Olive Glitters. Again, it's a really, really nice purple. I just really like the color, and I think it added a little extra hue of purple to it that really played well with the other colors on this cup. Then finally, over the top of Everest, I came in with Periwinkle from Peachy Olive Glitters. And this was just a finer cut to fill in some of the spaces over Everest. And I just love the way these colors like blended together and just made this wonderful purple magnificentness that came together. So I then wanted to add a little bit of dimension, and I had purchased the Imagination box from PDB, and it was one of the best purchases I've ever made. So I received this wonderful purple flake, and what you'll see I'm doing here is it's very, very similar. It's probably the same thing as gold leaf, but I just take a Elmer's glue stick that happened to be purple. I lucked out on that. And then I take my finger, get some of the flakes out of the container, and just dab them on to the Elmer's glue stick that I had added to the cup. So your oh my gosh, I'm sorry guys, I can't even talk right now. Your finger will turn purple, but it does come off. But yeah, you just want to continually add the glue stick to the cup and just dab on more of that flake throughout. Once you get the coverage that you like, I recommend coming in with like a dry brush. You can see it there in the corner of my table. And I just come in and roughly go over it. This will get off any excess flakes that might have either just kind of stuck to the epoxy or different pieces that are just kind of all over the place, because this stuff is messy, I'm not going to lie. Speaking of which, one quick note. I did come in with 2 layers of epoxy after I glittered to make sure I had a smooth surface for this step. Holy cow, that was an important step. Sorry, it's just now coming up, but I did want to include it. But yeah, so here I'm still going through adding more of the flake, and I just kind of decided that I love the way the purple showed through and the dimension it added, but I wanted to go a step further. Not only just by adding it to the bottom of the cup, because I love those kind of details, but I had actually received another flake from PDB in the Imagination box, and it's called Dream. And these Dream Chameleon flakes, oh my goodness, like they are so just absolutely wonderful. They shift from all different kinds of colors, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm still doing the purple flake in my cup. Okay, here we go. But yeah, you just come in the same technique that we were doing with the purple flake, but oh my gosh, can you see the chameleon shift? So it looks green on the screen, but depending on how you turn the cup, it turns purple, it turns some wonderful different orange colors. It was just the added touch that I think this cup needed to really set off the base for our flowers going forward. So again, I'm just kind of going in and accenting the purple flake that I had added to the cup using the exact same technique. I did not put a layer of epoxy between the purple flake and this chameleon because it didn't need it. But you can see I'm just going through and just adding those little spots. And I don't know if you could see that wonderful color shift, but don't walk, run to PDB's website and go pick this stuff up because it's truly wonderful. The next step, I went into a layer of epoxy after I did the flakes, and I cut a template using the stencil vinyl that I've used in a couple of my other tutorials. Now, one thing I want to add here, and I don't know if many of you know this, but I actually applied transfer tape to my stencil cup for a couple of reasons. It actually adds another layer of protection or durability to the vinyl so that it doesn't stretch when you're like pulling it up and trying to get it smooth. This is an old tip I had learned from doing vinyl signs and just different things throughout my career, but it made a world of difference. I know it might seem wasteful, but to get this stencil to wrap around the cup the way you want to, it just really makes it easier to where you're not pulling the flowers, they're not going on wonky. So I highly recommend using the transfer tape. But what I'm doing is I'm just gently pulling the backing off and starting from the middle of the cup and working my way out. So starting in the center, then pushing my thumbs outwards to get that backing off of the vinyl, and then just continually working my fingers out so that there aren't any wrinkles, aren't any bubbles, and I get that real smooth finish for the stencil going forward. Here, the way I designed this stencil, there was some overlap between where one end of the design ended and the other began. So I just simply cut a little handle that you'll see like right here in the stencil that allowed for the cutouts to go through to the base of the cup, but also gave me the coverage for the spray paint that I needed to really make this design come to life. So there you can kind of see that little bit of that handle right there. And I started to remove the transfer tape here, and you just want to take your time. You don't want to pull up the stencil while you're doing this. It is a necessary evil, I promise. But I started pulling it up, and then after I got through this, I just decided to cut the top off. I thought it was going to be an easier process. And I had the flowers overlapping the rim in the bottom of the cup because I liked how it kind of faded into the bottom. So I cut the top off, and then I just continued to remove the transfer tape, making sure that my stencil was still really well adhered to the cup, because the last thing you wanted to do is to lift that up and then have to start over. So just carefully moving down, and then I cut little slits in the bottom and pressed them down to make sure that I had that full coverage. I didn't wrap the entire bottom of the cup because any overspray that might occur down there, you just can wipe it off with some alcohol or some acetone. So there I'm just pulling those pieces down so that it nicely wraps. And then I took it outside and spray painted it. Now, you'll see here that there is glitter and the centers of the sunflowers already completed. I learned a lot during this tutorial, and my recommendation would be not to do this part. It pretty much just made it to where the stencil wouldn't come off. It was the glitter just ripped off with the stencil. It wasn't cute in any way, shape, or form. So ignore the fact that it's already glittered. I'm going to show you how I added glitter to the cup. But one step that is important is to, when you wrap the stencil around the cup, you are still going to want to spray it with white spray paint. I used Rust-Oleum 2x Gloss White. And what that does and why it's important is because it gives a layer for the sunflower glitter to really stand out against that purple. So don't do the glitter at this step, but please, please, please spray paint it, because you can see how big of a pain it was to get all of that stencil off. So what seemed like days later, I finally got the stencil off, and I purchased one of these little needle bottles, and I filled it with Mod Podge, and this actually worked wonders. It went so quickly to filling in the sunflowers, and it just, I think it made it look a lot more vibrant and brought the overall look of the cup to life. So I started off, I got these wonderful shatter pieces from Create by Firefly. I will link them below. But what this design allows you to do is get 3-dimension in your cup without actually having to use clay or any kind of new surface or material that you aren't familiar with. So I added the shattered glitter from Create by Firefly, and then I came in on top of that with Carly Sue from Peachy Yellow Glitters. It really let the sunflower centers look wonderful, and I really like how the colors complemented the St. Jude yellow from Peachy Yellow Glitters. So after I got all of the centers completed, I let them dry for probably a good 2-3 hours because I didn't want St. Jude sticking to the centers because I really liked how these colors played together, but I didn't want them to overly blend. So waited a couple hours, then I came in and I went over the petals of the flowers. So I'm not going to show you all of the flowers because it's pretty much the same technique over and over again. But what you do is you come in with the tool and just go around the outer edge of the petal. You'll be surprised how fast this goes. And then come in with the paintbrush and just kind of blend all of the glue together. The reason why I do this instead of filling the whole thing with the needle tool is because it was just going everywhere. It was just causing these huge blobs. Didn't really allow for the detail of the flower to come through. So I highly recommend just going around the outside, then using the paintbrush to get the coverage that you want. and then coming into the glitter. So something else I learned through this is you really only want to do like 3 or 4 petals and then come in with the glitter, because otherwise there gets this weird skin on it and the glitter doesn't stick as well. So watch out for that. After I let that dry, I did seal it twice, and then I found this amazing technique. I brainstormed it, hoped it worked, and oh my gosh, it does. So right here, I'm using Quick Quote from CC DIY. This stuff is amazing. I highly recommend it. But to get coverage of the shattered glitter from Create by Firefly, I came in with CC DIY and I dripped different, or just several different drops into the center of the sunflowers. What this did is it secured everything down and also almost made it sturdy to where when I came in with epoxy, nothing moved. So I had already sealed it, and then coming in with the CC DIY made it to where nothing moved. It was great. It stayed in place, but it still allowed for that 3-dimension to really shine in the design of the cup. Highly recommend this stuff. It was absolutely wonderful. I then let that dry for probably about 45 minutes, and then I came in with 30 milliliters of a little extra epoxy and applied it over the top. Now, I spent a lot of time in the centers of the flowers and even the petals, because you can kind of see it here, but even the petals are raised to give it that 3-dimension feeling. So I didn't want too much epoxy going on the flowers because it wasn't going to be a smooth surface. I didn't want the smooth surface. I wanted the details to stand out. So I wanted to add enough epoxy to cover all of the details, but not enough to smother them. I let the cup turn for 5 more minutes, then came in with the torch to get any micro bubbles that might have appeared when we were getting the details of the flowers, but then she was done. And oh my gosh, I cannot believe how this turned out. This photo is not photoshopped to make it look more vibrant. That is literally what we were able to achieve using these techniques. Thank you so much for tuning in. I cannot begin to express how much I appreciate it. If you liked what you saw, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you receive all future notifications. Again, thank you for your time. I love you guys. Bye.